Hello, everybody. It is me, Crimby. It is time for the Brothers Chrim. That's a name that me and Harry came up with together. Why don't
Yes, it is.
Why don't you guys introduce yourselves, my lovely
Hi,
co-hosts?
I'm co-host Harry, and I'm in a creepy mood today.
And
Hi, my name is Kraken and my computer is crashing.
yeah, they've both been on
Great.
other stuff that's been on the channel before, but this time it's a new and exciting series from Crimby, because I felt like doing this where we read scary stories and critique them and or review them. You know, just do that shit.
We're also all in the same place together right now. We're sitting around a campfire.
Yeah, we're actually
Oh,
outside. Surprisingly, I didn't know audio quality was gonna be
yes,
this good. But
yes, it's a winder.
the story we're reading today is the Harbinger experiment by Xian J.
Crimby.
We're reading that one first.
It
Yeah.
it's Crimby. That's not how you pronounce the name.
The harbinger.
That's not how you pronounce the author's name, Crimby. He's obviously an Italian from New York. You pronounce it Zion A.
Oh, okay. Uh,
Zion.
That was a
Zion.
joke.
Yeah.
That was a joke
So
because
this
I'm gonna
story
play my recorder.
the story is
okay.
very highly rated on the website that we're looking at it on, but
9.05.
I've not heard very good things about this story from some other people who do a similar thing like this, and they I respect their opinion on these matters, but I will now we were not going to read it for ourselves. So who would like to
We'll find
start?
out.
And the way we're going to do this is we're just going
Remember,
to
you
read the
always gotta repeat
story, stop and critique it if we want to, or just keep going if we don't feel like stopping. And we'll take turns reading. So who wants to start?
I
So how are
will.
we gonna do this? One of us reads a paragraph, then we switch off to the next person.
Yeah, I'd say so, but if it's a short paragraph, then take two.
We do. Yeah. Crimby, you can start, and then I'll go. Then
Okay, so me, Harry, Steve. That's how old.
that's me.
Kraken. Well, whatever the fuck.
Me and Steve.
Yeah, this will be good. All right,
Sounds good.
let's get this going. First of all, this opening is very stupid and existential in my opinion, but I'm gonna read it and you'll see
Just
why.
read.
The world we live in is full of things we don't understand. Being the
Yeah,
curious
really.
humans that we are, we naturally try and seek those things out. Doing so has led us to
God knows I don't.
remarkable, yeah,
Harry, I'm going to kill you.
led us to
Okay.
remarkable discoveries and inventions that we never could have imagined 100 years ago. We have defeated disease, built to the sky itself, and even created machines that could take us beyond the clouds and into the stars. If our ancestors could
True, space
see,
travel's a conspiracy.
This is like an essay I wrote when I was in 8th grade.
honestly, if our ancestors could see us and what we have created, I'm sure many of them would see us as gods.
I don't think that's true.
I don't know. I mean,
Maybe.
see, that's just the first paragraph, right? And I'll do the
I'm sure
next.
that.
I'll do the next one too. I'll just
I'm,
finish off the existential bullshit actually, and then
I'm
we'll
sure
switch.
that if like some random normal guy from like the 1400s saw us driving
1642.
cars
Yeah.
around, they would think we're gods or something.
He'll probably be like, "Yo, what in the seven heavens is that motorized horse?"
They yeah, they probably wouldn't think that we were the gods. They probably think the car was some sort of god, or some sort of animal,
Yeah, some kind
maybe.
of moving
Yeah, that's
moving
until I
thing.
walk out with my Pantera shirt on.
Yeah, and then they know that you're a god. It's not thinking anymore.
Pantera, the god of Steve.
Anyway, uh,
God.
I just don't. I mean, I've heard the story before. I'm pretty sure. I don't remember anything past this point, but I know. I just remembered how I didn't really like the opening. It really
I've
just
never heard this at
feels.
all. So
It doesn't. This opening, I know, does not have really anything to do with the rest of the story. So our
well,
innate
how about we read on?
Our innate curiosity and lust for knowledge has not always led us to greatness. However, oh wait, fuck, I fucked up. Our innate curiosity and lust for knowledge has not led us to greatness, however. True evil and darkness have also been uncovered in humanity's conquest of knowledge. And in the end, I fear this evil will be our doom. Can you that sentence right there is really weird because however comma that's like they put unnecessary periods, and also I don't know if you can't start a sentence with and, can you?
No, you cannot. No, you cannot.
Huh.
There should have been a comma after knowledge and before and.
I see. All right, Harry, do you wanna start reading?
Let me think about that for a sec. Sure. So I was contemplating reading this in a spooky manner. I think I'm just going to read this in a hairy manner. So, okay.
Good one.
I do not say this from the standpoint of a great philosopher who has sat and simply pondered things either. No. I say this because I have seen it, experienced it.
Front loading.
The event I am about to relate to you. What?
These next two paragraphs are front loading.
Okay. Steve, can you shut up with the recorder?
Oh Jesus.
Is
The
it
event
not?
I am about to relay to you is true in its entirety. This I swear. I swear. I feel certain that this will fall on deaf ears, and many of you will believe this to be just another spooky story meant to give you cheap thrills. But I promise you that this is neither my intent nor my purpose. The purpose of this story is to simply warn you of what lurks beyond the veil of what we can see and understand, to show you what awaits us in the darkness, even if I myself don't understand it. What I am about to tell you has happened, and I feel certain it will happen again.
Okay, let's talk about that for a little bit. Why
I don't
is
know what the fuck he's talking about, and now I just kind of want to read Ted the Caver, but
well, why is that paragraph like even it doesn't even okay, so all this existential bullshit, this
does
fucking
it have anything to do with the...
no, the story could start from the word in the next paragraph. This entire first
could.
these first like 5 paragraphs or whatever you want to call them are completely unnecessary.
You know those like books that start out with like a whole chapter of useless exposition? That's like what this is.
Yeah, pretty much. All
This
right,
is what this is.
Steve, do you wanna read the long ass paragraph?
Sure. Alright. In 1971, a not so well known scientist began preparations for an extremely secretive project known simply as the Harbinger experiment. I would like to keep the identity of the scientist a secret for personal reasons. So throughout this,
Newsflash, he was going to be.
throughout this recounting, that's a weird word, I will refer to him as Zimmerman. Zimmerman's background is unclear at best beyond 1971. All that is known about him before that time is that he had grown up somewhere in Maryland with a strange fascination of the occult and supernatural. This later made him an outcast among his fellow students due to how scoffed upon the metaphysical was and still is at the time. Zimmerman's opinions concerning the otherworldly were not sole cause for him being an outcast, though. It was his methods that made him widely unaccepted among his peers. Zimmerman was well known during his time for being ruthless and cold beyond measure. He never cared about the means. All that mattered to him was results. And if he predicted the results would be valuable enough, anything would be worth obtaining them. It was this insatiable and brutal lust for the truth that made him feared among those that knew him. And the few that knew of him and did not fear him believed in him and followed him and his work closely. There's a lot of ands in that sentence, and it really pisses me off.
Yeah, this again, this author, it's like they're explaining a bunch of stuff right now.
Yeah.
It's like, why, again, they're doing a lot of telling about Zimmerman. First of all, it's like,
You've always
I don't want to tell this dude his
got a
name.
show. Not tell.
Yeah, I don't want to tell you this dude's name, so I'm going to call him by
You're telling me
probably
everything
his,
else about him.
yeah, I'm going to call him by his last name and talk about his scientific work and where he's from, but I don't want to tell you his name. All right.
You know everything else about him, so you're kind of doxing him, but not doxing him at the same time.
Exactly. All right.
He's docs.
Let's continue. The word harbinger
Maybe you
itself.
read that.
Yes. The word harbinger itself has such a mysterious and intimidating taste to it. Thank you for telling me why people should be interested in this story. Maybe it's the way it rolls from our tongues, or maybe it's simply due to its association with the project. But the word always seems to carry a certain amount of doom with it. Well, that's the point, which would make sense.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. The word itself means to warn or forebode. Okay, they say that. I can't imagine Zimmerman's reason for giving the experiment this title, but in retrospect, it fits perfectly. Okay, that also, again, that sentence really pisses me off. I can't imagine Zimmerman's reason, but in retrospect, it fits perfectly. You could, like, why...
You know the reason.
Are you telling...
Can't imagine it?
It's like they're trying to... It's like this guy that's telling the story has the author can't decide if the event has already happened or if he's going through it right now.
Can we stop reading this?
No.
Grimby, why? This ain't good.
That's the point.
This is not good.
Entertaining.
Do you want to come up with our own creepypasta on the spot? Here, Steve, help me out. I'll say a sentence, you say a sentence. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Johnny Thimble.
He was 18 years old and he had an extremely large penis.
It was so large, in fact, that it was really heavy. And everywhere he stepped, it made a really loud thump sound that cracked the earth.
One time he tried to go swimming and sunk to the bottom of the ocean and died.
And now his ghost haunts the seven seas. And everybody who passes over his corpse in a boat sees him sitting at the bottom of the ocean floor with his big long schlong floating in the water.
Harry.
He has gone under the nickname Flameheart.
Now will be forever known as Cumbeard.
Cumbeard. The ghost of the seven seas.
Alright, Harry.
Everybody has stopped watching this video at this point.
Keep her going. Keep her going, Harry.
Okay, hold on, Crimby. Hold on, man. Okay. The word harbinger. You already read this. Okay.
It's the next one.
I know. Zimmerman came to a select few, me being one of them. He told us he was working on something big. So this guy didn't know the reason for Zimmerman's project, but now we know the reason is because he was working on something big.
Well, it's like...
Anyway, he told us he was working on something big.
Like this guy... We already know that this guy was part of the project, so again, he didn't... That little parenthetical is another unnecessary detail.
Yes, it is. Anyway, he told us he was working on something big and that he needed people who could keep confidentiality and not spread idle gossip of his work. While he did not fully trust some of us, he did know that we were professionals and that for some reason or other, we were all in dire need of employment. I had worked at the local... What?
No, just go.
I had worked at the local clinic as a doctor, but I was caught stealing needed medication and was promptly fired. This left a dark mark on my resume, so work was hard to find. I was also a native to Alaska and lived near where the
Experiment
would take place. So I know how to read. I'm just fucking with y'all. I'm going to read normally now. So I guess you could say I was a convenient choice. As you can imagine, I jumped at the opportunity. It was hard not to when I saw the payout. 15 of us were hired in total. Some were colleagues of his that had been working with him For a while, some were maintenance workers and a few were hired as private security. I was the only medical professional to be hired. It's still a wonder to me how he even attained the funds necessary for the experiment. I would not be wholly surprised if his financing was not entirely legal. Why is there a comma after that? Weird. Should there be a comma between experiment and I don't know. Whatever. But legal or not, I needed the money and he was paying. Looking back, it's a decision I have come to regret.
Alright, so the way to fix that is put a period after experiment and then put a comma after legal and then finish off the sentence the same way.
Okay.
But, the looking back at decision regret, more front loading. Plus, let's look at what just happened here. This high class scientist, like working on a insanely confidential experiment, right? Hires someone who is out of a job.
Random people.
He hires random people. He hires this dude who's out of a job for stealing medication at his workplace, and he's the only medical professional to be hired. Like, he's the only one. So, like, this pharmacist that got fired is the only person that could, like, save someone's life.
I guess so.
Steve, guess what?
What?
You get another really long you get another long paragraph.
Oh, cool.
For some reason, I'm gonna open this up in Chrome because for some reason,
you got a Chrome Dome.
Maybe. For some reason, Internet Explorer is taking up 40% of my CPU at this.
Why are you using fucking Internet Explorer?
Because that's what Discord links automatically open up for.
My Discord my Discord links automatically opens up to Firefox.
You gotta set Chrome or something else as your default browser.
Yeah, you can do that.
You go into like your computer settings or the Chrome settings or whatever, you can do that.
Si, senor.
Hold on, I'm just copy and pasting links.
See? Yeah, I actually opened Internet Explorer yesterday to look at some news online. For some reason, it was still news. And for some reason, the only news on there is from 1983. So.
Makes sense.
Well, it is Internet Explorer.
Yes, close all tabs.
Not slow.
Let the hate flow.
Just let the shit flow.
Yeah.
Or the words of Rifty, just let it flow. He did say that once.
There we go.
I miss Rifty. Remember Rifty, Crimby?
Fucking hell, dude.
You want me to read for now, Steve?
I mean, I'll take the next one since you just did one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just continue it.
Yes.
After Zimmerman obtained his money, he used it to buy a relatively large plot of land deep within the frozen wilderness of Alaska. And upon that piece of land, Zimmerman built a concrete structure, not dissimilar to a bunker, in fact, the sole difference being that its goal was to keep any potential damage contained within the structure rather than keeping it out, as he put it. Most of the structure dug underneath the earth, which had the effect of making the underground complex seem so much smaller than it really was from the outside, as would be expected. There was only one way of entering and leaving the underground structure, and it was via a ladder that led from a small, unassuming concrete building, on the surface, which I will refer to from now on as the entrance building for convenience. Why didn't you just say a small, unassuming... to the network below. After everyone had gone to bed at night, the hatch that contained the ladder would be sealed off with a very large and thick metal lid. Zimmerman was very strict about this. Located not too far away from the entrance building was a series of wooden cabins that would serve as the sleeping quarters for the staff Zimmerman had hired. Compared to...
I can read it.
Okay, you got it then.
Yeah, my computer's not fucking up anymore.
Yay.
Compared to the entrance building, standing on the surface, the underground system was massive. At the center of the complex was the control room. This is where all the facilities, electronics, and such were linked to. This included security cameras, lights, and door controls. Consoles, monitors, and computers line the walls of this large central chamber. This is also where the
Why
ladder
couldn't
and
you
the
put that in one sentence?
What'd you
What?
say?
He could have put all that shit in one sentence.
he
There was a control room that had computers, monitors, security cameras, lights, and door controls.
He did. Oh
That's two
wait,
sentences,
oh wait.
though.
The control
That's two
room.
sentences.
That's right. Never mind. I misread. I was rereading it and I misread it. Anyway, Steve, continue.
This is also where the ladder and the entrance building connected to in the underground. Connected to the control room were three doors. One led to a smaller room that served as the infirmary. Another door led to a break room, and the last door led into the hallways. The hallways are where the complex began to feel extremely eerie. They were, for some reason, laid out in extremely confusing schemes and led in circles into complete dead ends. This hallways made up the vast majority of the complex, and it would be very easy to get lost in the maze if you were unfamiliar with the complex.
Obviously.
This
Alright.
guy obviously had a word limit or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know because
think
this is
there's
just a completely like self-contained story. This was posted here on the creepypasta wiki forum thing, whatever. Alright.
Anyway,
But if you knew where you were going, you would find yourself standing before one of 3 8-by-8-foot rooms before long. Each room had a camera hooked up to one of the corners of the room, and all 3 of those cameras were connected to a corresponding monitor in the control room. Cameras were also scattered throughout the hallways so that whoever was watching their corresponding monitor could see anywhere they wanted to when they wanted to. Thick metal doors stood at the entrance to each of the 3 8-by-8-foot rooms. In order to open them, you would have to enter a 4-digit code into a panel located near the door. Now, okay, all of that we just read describing that actually matters. It's setting up something for the story, kind of. But I mean, you'll see once we get there. But Harry, do you want to read again?
I will go now. Yes, okay. I remember when I first arrived to the complex how badly the hallways frightened me. I have a fear of hallways, too. I've always been claustrophobic, you see, and the hallways were so very narrow. The noise, or more accurately, the lack of noise, was also a tremendous source of fear for me in those bleak, narrow hallways. Unnaturally silent, as if the entire world has stopped moving. Yeah, because you're in a fucking concrete bunker underground.
Yeah.
Anyway, it really made you feel like you were trapped down there.
Because you were.
Because you kind of are. Thankfully, though, I only rarely ventured into those hallways, for I was the only medical professional in the facility, and I had virtually no reason to go into them. Then why were you in the bunker?
So
In the
like,
beginning, I found it so peculiar. Hold on, let me close my window. Please, blasting Mexican music outside. Did you hear that?
yeah, I heard it.
Yeah.
I heard it.
Oh,
You should make it was good. We should put
oh
Mexican
no, they're actually
music.
doing one with my window.
Sometime maybe. I don't know, man.
What the hell?
Harry?
Harry's
what the
dead.
hell? Why are they doing that? It's fucking 7 p.m. Don't blast fucking mariachi. God damn. Okay, whatever. Okay. That was scary. Okay, in the beginning, I found it so peculiar that Zimmerman would ask for him. Okay,
It's just mariachi music just suddenly.
what's up, Dad? Cool. Okay, so I'm on the phone. Okay, so I'm on the phone. Okay. Jesus Christ.
Stop yelling at your dad, Harry.
Tell him I'm on the phone. He keeps talking to me. Okay, anyway, in the beginning, I found it so peculiar that Zimmerman would ask for a medical professional like me on a project like this. But by the time it was all over, I understood why. So, did this guy even think to question Zimmerman?
Well,
Beginning?
Zimmerman was explained to be secretive and kind of an asshole, and also
Yeah,
Again,
I know, but
what kind of medical professional is this dude? Because he worked in
he stole
pharmaceuticals
medication,
and he stole medication.
and he stole medication.
So, like, is he trained to be a doctor
Well, I
or
didn't
is he
want this
just a
guy.
pharmacist? Like, what's going on here? I don't know, but
But I guess we'll find out. Anyway, the official purpose of the harbinger experiment was to test and observe the effects of extended isolation on the human mind. Okay, this is what was listed on reports being sent out, at least. But unbeknownst to all of those who were not participating in the project, excluding the subjects, the true purpose was much darker.
stop telling us that the true purpose. Like, I mean, I know you're trying to build up the
Oh, it's
story.
exposition.
Yeah, hey,
It's exposition.
Steve, do you wanna go next?
Which the sentence does it start at?
Like I said,
Like I said
Like I
before,
said before, Zimmerman had always had an obsession with the occult and supernatural.
no, you didn't.
He thought-
You didn't say that.
he did.
No, he
Jim
didn't.
Stock.
No, he didn't. He never said that. He said he had an
Yeah, he did.
obsession with metaphysical stuff, but never the occult and supernatural.
No, he said occult and supernatural also.
Where?
If you go up, he said, well, I know about Zimmerman before the 1970s that he grew up somewhere in Maryland with a strange fascination of the occult and supernatural.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to pose the point in general.
Okay.
He sought to prove himself to those who did not believe him. He wanted physical proof that the supernatural was a real phenomenon, and he wanted to be the first one to attain said proof. The true purpose of the Harbinger experiment was to find proof of the metaphysical, a world we could not see. The thought of doing this was naturally a tad bit daunting and even scary, but it was Zimmerman's method of doing so that was truly terrifying. Zimmerman believed that he would be able to open a portal between worlds momentarily, allowing 3 random entities to cross over to our world, and each one of these beings would be trapped within one of the 3 rooms. Zimmerman had the theory that any entity would try and latch onto the nearest living thing that had the capacity for it. He wanted to use this technique to trap a spirit in a physical form by allowing it to enter a living being that had been injected with compound mixture of Zimmerman's creation.
All right. In theory,
It's your turn.
this compound. All right, we'll just take it 3 at a time now. Whatever. In theory, this compound would keep the entity from simply leaving whatever it was attached to. All right. The only way it would be able to leave a host who had been injected with the compound was through death. According to Zimmerman, the host would have to be something living with a will strong enough to survive the possession, and there's only one known species that possess the amount of will required for this. Humans. Ooh.
Oh.
Zimmerman had also done something to ensure that the entities would only enter the 3 rooms that there would only be would only enter the 3 rooms, and that there would only be 1 entity in each room, though I cannot say I know what exactly he did. In fact, I know next to nothing. In fact, I know next to nothing when it comes to how Zimmerman managed to do what he did. He liked to keep his methodology a secret to his most trusted colleagues, most likely due to his paranoia that someone would steal his ideas and take credit for the success of said ideas. If I had known that this was the true purpose before I signed up, I may have reconsidered, but Zimmerman decided not to tell us until we were all gathered at his fortress. Even if any of us wanted to leave, I doubt we would have been allowed to do so. The security team Zimmerman had hired was loyal to him, and the payout, it is not loyal to him and the payout. It is not likely that Zimmerman had given them the order to now allow anyone to leave. Either I can't read, or just this is worded strangely.
This guy just can't really write well. It's written strangely. Too expositional. That's why it's confusing. I guess I'll go.
Yep.
There were 3 subjects included in the experiment. All were native to Alaska, and each one was lured into the project under the belief that they would be participating in a harmless study of the effect of isolation on the human mind, as I mentioned before. Which is why none of the subjects objected when they realized that they would be confined to one of 3 rooms that I mentioned earlier. The first subject was a young man. He was apparently out of work and desperately needed the money that had been offered for participating in the study. The second was a woman. By looking at her, I could tell she was an addict of some sort. Third and final subject was an older man, a drifter if I had to guess. One thing that they all had in common was that none of them had any family or friends left. In short, no one would miss them, which is why they were chosen for the project. I am sorry, I wish I could supply more information about the subjects, but all of this has been drawn from memory and I was given little information of the three to begin with. Is that sentence really necessary?
No.
That doesn't seem like a necessary sentence. It seems like he could go from the
I
one
mean,
about the people
The
to the next
important
one.
the important part about the description of the three people was the last sentence. The reason why they were
Yeah, so I
chosen
really,
is because no one
yeah,
would miss them.
yeah. I don't know why he needs a sentence apologizing for no more information. That seems pretty useless.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. The
Uh,
experiment did not begin officially until 1987, 16 years after its origin. What the fuck? What kind of timeline is that? Okay, whatever. I was
nice.
eager to begin, so I packed out and headed to the complex as soon as I could. I thought they were there already. I arrived at the compound a week before the subjects had even signed up, and a whole month before the project even began. I was not the first to arrive by any means. When I got there, Zimmerman, his colleagues, and the security team had already arrived. I suppose you could say I was among the people Zimmerman did not trust to arrive first. Everyone had arrived about a week before the experiment began. There was a noticeable rift between those who were there simply for the money, like me, and those who were followers of Zimmerman.
Okay.
Let's discuss.
So he went forward and then back and then forward and then like in
I
this
thought they were already
entire
there before he
yeah, it's very confusing
My
about
This
that.
is
favorite is when they waited 16 years.
Yeah, they waited
yeah, that
they waited well, they need the complex to be built, but the way he was describing the complex before, again, it seemed like he was already at the complex.
yeah, it seemed like it was already built. They were there.
And then he
Yeah.
says, I
You know,
got there a month before everybody else, but
yeah.
then everybody arrived a week before the experiment. Oh, everyone had arrived.
So
Okay, so it's past tense, so
yeah,
that's
okay.
still all right.
You know, there's two kinds of confusing in literature. There's bad and good. A good kind of confusing would be the Goatman story, because it's supposed to be confusing. This is the bad kind of confusing because it's just not written that well.
All right, Steve, you wanna
Uh,
take the on October
Boring.
15th?
uh, on October 15th, 1987, all the preparations were in place. The subjects had been sealed in their rooms, the cameras, lights, and speakers were fully operational, and all the staff members had settled in. Time had come for the experiment to officially begin. Zimmerman asked everyone to report to the control room around 9 p.m. to witness the beginning of the experiment. He wanted everyone to be present when he proved that all his theories had been correct and that he was not just a madman. He wanted us all to see the fruits of his labor. When everyone had finally gathered in the large control room, Zimmerman turned to us and simply said, "Observe." He then turned his back to us and leaned into the microphone that would project his voice to the three rooms. And then he began chanting in a strange language that I feel certain no one but Zimmerman could understand. We all observed the three large monitors on the wall, silently waiting for something to happen. The subjects all stood in their room, dumbstruck by Zimmerman's chanting, staring at the monitors with confused expressions on our faces. After about 5 minutes, I felt something awful. I cannot
Oh,
explain what exactly it was, but a horrible feeling of dread washed over me, riddling me with fear. It was then that the ground actually began to shake subtly and the lights began to flicker. The walls started oozing.
It's the hash slinging slasher.
they'll get you.
Zimmerman continued chanting into the microphone as if nothing was off or wrong while the subjects began dashing around their rooms screaming
What
for
the
help.
hell?
Then suddenly the ground stopped shaking and the monitor's image turned into static.
Well,
The air
you know, at least this story is finally getting to the point, and I'm gonna read next
Yeah.
because, but
Okay.
like, fucking, dude, at least it's getting to the point. But like, what the hell?
Yeah.
This went from
Nosferatu.
yeah. All right, so whenever the
God.
monster shows up, which I don't know, which we all
Nosferatu.
know that the monster is
Whoa!
eventually gonna show up.
Spoiler.
I don't give a fuck.
This story's
Spoiler.
When the monster shows up eventually, because we all know there's gonna be one. It's the hashling slasher.
Gotta be. Or Nosferatu.
All right, let's just keep going.
Maybe it's the cat ladies from Scooby Doo on Zombie Island.
I bet it's Nosferatu.
Maybe, probably. I bet, yeah, probably.
The air began the air began to become very heavy as we all stared at the monitors, waiting for them.
Very heavy.
Yes, I said very.
Yeah, I know, but you didn't put an emphasis.
The air began to become very. Hold on. Very heavy.
Good. That's what I call emphasis.
As we all stared at the monitors, waiting for them to regain their image and show us what was happening or had happened in those 3 rooms. For a while, all was silent, but then there was screaming. The screams of a woman going through unbearable pain and terror began to echo through the compound. The similar screams of men began to coincide with the woman's terrified screams, and together they mixed into an awful symphony of pain and fear that beat mercilessly into our ears.
I like how the author is trying his best to be poetic here, but it's not really working in his favor because the rest of this is so poorly written.
Yeah, I fucking hate big words.
Yeah.
Those of us who were here for the money began to give each other scared looks, while those loyal to Zimmerman seemed completely unfazed. We wanted to leave and never come back to this awful place, but we all knew deep down that Zimmerman would never allow that to happen. We were here for the long haul. There was no escape. It was 10:13 p.m. when the screaming finally stopped. The monitors had yet to reveal to us what had occurred in those 3 rooms. As soon as the screaming ended, Zimmerman stood and dismissed us all for the night, adding that we were all forbidden to come back into the compound until 10 a.m. Wait, they can't leave the compound though. Oh, okay, never mind. I just remembered.
Yeah, because they leave and then
they have to put. Okay.
Yeah.
10 a.m. tomorrow morning, not like any of us wanted to, we all solemnly made our way out of the compound and towards the cabins and settled in for the night. I feel it is safe to say that not all of us slept well that night, and I was not one of them.
Interesting sentence.
It's safe to say that not all of us slept well that night, and I'm not one of them.
Is he saying that he slept well that night?
I think so.
I slept like a baby.
He slept fine. Yeah,
I feel it is safe to say that not all of us slept well
that night, but I'm not one of them.
I was not one of them.
He slept fine, so he's unfazed.
Yeah, he's all good. Yeah,
he's fine.
He did steal medication at his pharmacy. So.
Yeah, so he's a shitty dude, but at least he slept well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Harry, take it away.
The following morning, after my very good night's sleep, all of the staff had arrived at the entrance building. We all stood inside, exchanging tired or nervous looks as we waited for Zimmerman to arrive and open the hatch that concealed the ladder. He could have just said we were waiting for him to arrive until he opened the hatch. He didn't have to say the ladder. I could see palpable fear in the eyes of some of us, while others did not seem to have been even remotely affected by what happened last night.
Yeah, like you.
Fine. Yeah. Zimmerman showed up 5 minutes later after 10 o'clock. 10:05. Apologizing for his tardiness as he came through the door of the entrance building. He opened the hatch and, without any hesitation, began descending the ladder downwards into the black abyss. He seemed so enthusiastic.
He almost seemed enthusiastic. Just keep going,
I was the first to follow behind Zimmerman's dark descent into the facility. It seemed that the farther I climbed down, the more the darkness closed in on me, as if it was trying to swallow me whole. And as I climbed deeper, I couldn't help but feel that this place was different somehow. While before there was only the unsettling concrete hallways and rooms, now there was something else. Something made the eeriness feel so real and personified. Because of what happened last night, motherfucker.
Slasher.
I felt like a horrible and gruesome scene awaited us down there, but I continued climbing downward, despite my fear and my hesitation. This was no longer just a spooky bunker. There was darkness and malevolence in the air. A true evil now lived here, and I could feel it. We all could.
Awesome.
And that's when I noticed, and that's when I realized the true evil wasn't what was down here. It was the friends we made along the way.
Exactly.
RBC, which one of you would like to take over?
I finally felt my foot touch ground and let out a silent sigh of relief to be on solid ground.
What
Almost
the
as if,
hell, man? Why? Why would he say ground in the same twice? Fuck. And wasn't he just scared to go down there, but now he's happy he's down there?
keep in mind, he slept well that night.
Yeah,
That's
he's
true.
no, our main character is completely unfazed by what's going on.
Okay. He's
Almost
just an emotionless husk.
yeah, almost as if on cue. The light bulbs came alive, dousing the room in their warmth and welcome light.
So now everything's happy. Okay.
Yeah,
The guy must have stolen happy pills.
yeah.
Probably.
Zimmerman must have turned on a little power, I thought. I allowed myself to take a couple seconds to examine the control room. It was exactly as we had left it last night, for which I gave a silent and thankful prayer. It was almost as if nothing unusual had ever happened.
Probably
I
not, since he slept so well.
Yeah, exactly. He was only imagining it.
Yeah, it was just a
Actually,
dream.
what if he was dreaming that whole situation?
Yeah, while he was sleeping like a baby.
Yeah.
Exactly. I shook myself from my thoughts as I remembered the static-filled monitors from the night before. I let my eyes slowly make their way towards the monitors on the wall, anticipating the grim and fearful scenes that would be on them. My attention was first grabbed by monitor 1 and 3, which were still pure static. It would have been a small relief, but then the motionless image on monitor 2 caught my eye. Room 2 was entirely still, and something seemed entirely untouched. Everything seemed entirely untouched. I couldn't help but gasp as I noticed the only thing that was different. The woman lay in the center of the small concrete room. An expression of fear and terror was frozen into her gaunt face as she lay silent and lifeless on her back.
Zimmerman, I'm just gonna speed run this shit real quick. Zimmerman's expression turned angry when he saw this. He ordered that second monitor be turned off, and it was. We didn't want to ask why. It's not like any of us wanted to see the dreadful scene any longer. He also ordered that if the images in the monitors 1 and 3 did not return within the next 2 hours, the security team would be sent to investigate the rooms. The security team nodded at hearing this. They made it seem as if they had no fear, but I could see it in their eyes. Why? What's scary?
Static is
Like,
scary.
from what they know, the worst thing that could be in there is a dead person.
Yeah.
The subtly
I'll
loud.
read this next paragraph. I want to read it.
Okay.
I want to read it.
Okay.
Okay. The subtly loud tick-tock of the clock was the only sound that echoed through the control room while I stared at the monitors. An hour and 50 minutes had gone by, and static was still all that occupied monitor 1 and 3. All of the other staff members were working except me. This was due to the fact that the project had been completely injury-free thus far. So I essentially had nothing to do but wait for someone to hurt themselves. Zimmerman, a couple of his colleagues and I were the only ones that occupied the room. They quietly chatted amongst themselves on the other side of the room while I spent my time reading and pondering the situation I currently found myself in and watching Fruit Loops commercials on my phone. I had clearly made a mistake coming here. The corpse lying in room 2 was evidence enough of this. They didn't go to clean the corpse. And God only knew what awaited us in rooms 1 and 2. Wait, he's a medical professional. There's a chance she might be alive, and he doesn't go to fucking check it out.
Yeah,
okay?
they didn't send the guy they didn't send the only medical personnel there to go check the dead body.
This is pissing me off. Anyway,
also he wasn't looking at Fruit Loop commercials on his phone because this is 1987.
Yeah, that's true.
He was looking at
He was looking at the commercials on his pager.
He was looking
or his
at
Walkman.
On his Walkman.
On his Walkman, yeah. He was looking at commercials on his Walkman.
Follow your nose wherever it goes, even if it's on your Walkman. Anyway, my thoughts were soon interrupted as Monitor 3's image returned. The clear image now displayed on the screen made everyone's eyes noticeably widen. Were the eyes hyper-realistic? What was displayed on the monitor was horrifying. A humanoid thing stood in the center of the room, staring directly at the camera, unmoving. It was
menacingly.
The subject 3 had been issued. But this clearly was not the same man that had entered the room.
Just read it normally,
What
it will
caught my
happen
attention
quicker.
first were his eyes. They were solid black and twice the size of normal human eyes. They seemed so endless and so cold. Its head had also grown with the eyes in such a symmetrical and unsettling manner. The being had also shed all the hair it once had, and even from the wait, so this guy knows it was a guy. Okay, the
It
being
was
also had
once
also shed.
it was
once
once
the
it was
subject,
once
yeah.
the old man.
Okay, yeah. The being had also shed all the hair it once had, and even from the monitor, I could see how unnaturally smooth and clear his skin was. Maybe he just likes to use lotion. It had also seemingly grown in height and stature, probably working out a little bit, which could be seen in the fact that the jumpsuit was now obviously far too small for its wearer. Its limbs had grown especially long. Its arms hung almost as low as the creature's knees. What we were looking at was in no way the same man we had sent inside.
Steve, do you want to take this next one?
Fear was all I felt as I continued to stare into the monitor at the thing in the room, and my fear seemed to be shared by those around me, which made me feel kind of good.
What the fuck?
This guy is a fucking dick.
He's a fucking psychopath, man. He thrives off of fear.
Listen, it's not because everybody else was scared, it's because he slept good that night.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he felt good.
Yeah.
Do you think he let out a smile and like he had like a little fist pump? He's like, yeah.
No. You know what he did? He let out a smile and like extended his arms as if he's like about to hug the air in front of him. He's like, finally, I could be happy.
Finally.
Wait, they explain why he feels good.
Yeah.
It may sound awful, but it was satisfying to see Zimmerman and his colleague could feel fear too. But at the same time, it was worrying because this showed that this was not part of the Zimmerman's plan. Something had gone wrong. We all stared into the monitor at the thing despite our fear. It was almost as if we were in a trance. My already present fear began to grow and spread rapidly through my body. I became lost in the creature's eyes, trapped in its terror and finally hypnotic gaze. I fell
So he's in love with it now. He's in love with it.
Yep.
I fell in love with a monster named Subject 3. Anime adaptation coming soon.
Netflix adaptation coming in 2040.
Exactly. After what felt like forever, I managed to break eye contact with the creature and divert my attention from the monitor. And when I did so, I felt my fear levels drop considerably.
Oh, fuck, man.
It dropped about 7 levels.
Do you think this guy?
About 7, maybe 8.
Do you think this guy knows how to describe fear in any other way than saying fear?
I don't think so.
My fear levels. It's not.
I could describe fear in 3 words: fear, terror, fright.
It's not that he doesn't know how to describe it any other way. It's that according to his GUI, that's what they're called, fear levels.
Fear levels.
He's got a fucking HUD in front of him like he's in fucking Dead Space.
All right,
I'm gonna Fallout. He has a Pip-Boy on his wrist.
Yeah, he can check his vitals.
Every time he looks at it, the world pauses around him.
All right, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna keep going for a long I'm just gonna keep going.
Fucking done with, please.
After a short while, Zimmerman ordered his security team to make their way to Subject 1's door, just as he said he would do. The security team left without questioning, armed only with batons and pistols. I focused my attention on watching the men progress through the hallways towards Subject 1's room via the cameras. Even through the not-so-high-quality cameras, it wasn't hard to tell that these men were afraid of what awaited them. Their heads were downcast as they walked. They did not possess the same confidence with them that they did when this project began. They looked like scared boys being sent off to a terrible war. Eventually, they made it to the door. We had perfect vision of them and the door via the hallway camera. One of them said something through one of their walkie-talkies and made a motion towards the camera. In response, one of Zimmerman's colleagues buzzed the door open. The men already had their pistols out by the time the button was pushed. Slowly, the door began to open. We all watched eagerly as the men began to approach the door, guns aimed inside. Suddenly, and without warning, there was a loud shriek, and as something bounded out of the room at the men, the monitor turned to static. Immediately, we could hear screaming echoing down the hallways, following shortly after the distinct sound of gunshots. We could do nothing but wait. After a couple minutes, the screaming and the gunshots stopped. We all waited and prayed, hoping that whatever bounded them from the room would not be the one to return to the control room. After a couple more minutes, 3 of the men came back, carrying with them the corpse of the fourth. He had massive cuts covering his chest, and his face was shredded. You couldn't even tell what he was anymore, or even that he was human. I was used to gore, being a doctor and all. No, you never.
He was a doctor.
You the
He was
only
a fucking pharmacist.
the only job you ever explained that you were was a pharmacist. So I felt somewhat I felt
Maybe
so
he saw
so
some shit in medical school,
so
but I don't know.
this man,
Does a pharmacist even go to medical school?
this guy, no, but this guy. So I felt somewhat unfazed by the mass of shredded flesh and bloodied meat they carried with them. So this
No wonder
guy,
this guy sleeps soundly.
yeah, he's a fucking sociopath. He's unfazed by a man who was shredded to the point of not even being recognizable as human.
I mean, I get being like desensitized to gore, but if you're in a fucking building where someone did that to somebody and he could do it to you also, I would be fucking terrified.
Yeah, but many of the others went.
This man heard screams the day before, and he was like, and now he's looking at a mangled body. He's like,
No.
He's like, oh,
listen,
that's fine.
He slept perfectly fine the night he heard screams.
That's
Got
right.
scared
That's
the
right.
next day by climbing down a ladder. Got scared again by looking at the monster. Looked away, felt fine.
And now
Here's
he's
gunshots.
completely fine.
See this?
And he's just completely fine, yeah. But many of the others went pale and vomited. The security team all wore emotionless expressions and eyes were filled with terror. One of the men finally looked up at us. He stared at us for a while with those wide eyes of his. "It's dead," he finally managed to mutter in a shaken and scared voice.
Who's dead? The fourth guy, like the shredded guy, or the monster?
It's dead.
I think
No,
they're
there
talking
was
about the
actually
monster.
Okay.
there was just a cockroach in there.
Yeah, the cockroach. The guy accidentally got in the way of everybody else trying to shoot at the cockroach.
That's what happened to him. Okay.
I mean, should I keep going or does
You want
somebody
to?
else
I could.
does somebody else want to
You-
read?
I'll go.
Okay.
A couple hours went by. The dead man's name was Frank. He was buried outside in the cold Alaskan ground. I wonder how they dug in the cold ground, which I'm assuming was very hard to dig into.
Probably a
Almost had,
shovel.
like a fucking excavator.
They had him pre-built.
Have you ever tried to dig in like frozen fucking ground?
Yes.
It's fucking
No,
hard.
I live in Virginia. Remember? Oh shit.
Great. Okay. Anyway, 2 of the men were unharmed, physically at least. The third was alive, but only barely. So why aren't you treating him? He tried. Okay, his body was covered in bloody slashes, and one of his eyes had been gouged out. Of course it was. Creepypasta. Gonna get gouged out. I managed to stabilize him, but only just. The other 2 men vaguely explained what happened. Apparently, Subject 1 leaped out at Frank after the door. Wait, Subject 1? I thought it was only Subject 3.
No, subject 3. The subject 3 they left alone because they knew what was going on in that room, but they went and checked on subject 1 because the camera never came back on.
Okay. So apparently Subject 1 leaped out of Frank after the door had opened. Only it wasn't really Subject 1 anymore. Yes, it was. According to them, it had a hideously contorted face and long, sharp claws, but it was still Subject 1. They claimed to have shot at it over a dozen times before it fell dead, and then they emptied another dozen bullets into it just to be sure it was really dead. Only once it was dead did they come back.
Man,
How
all
many
that
times are you
for
gonna
a
stay
cockroach.
fucking dead in 2 minutes?
All that for a cockroach.
Yeah, for real.
God. After
All
tending to the wounded man, I went to investigate the monitors. As afraid as I was of seeing what these monitors may have, I thought he wasn't scared anymore. I needed to see. Subject 3 was the only one left now, and I needed to see it and make sure the creature was still in his room. It seemed to be more like a jail cell than an ordinary room at this point, though. It's probably a good thing. You fucking think? The cameras in Subject 1's room and the hallway outside is still displayed a static-filled screen. No one was sent to repair them or investigate. We just had to hope that Subject 1 was well and truly dead. And now every sentence I read, I'm going to end on an upwards inflection. Monitor 3's image was exactly the same as I had left it. Subject 3 was still staring directly into the camera at us. He was still in the exact same position as if it were not for the small fan in the corner of the room. I would think I was looking at a still image. In a way, I felt relief at seeing this. Relief that he was still in his room and had not escaped while no one was looking.
after everything had quieted down, I noticed something especially unusual. There was a strange sound emanating from somewhere. At first, it was barely noticeable. The only reason I heard it was because of how extremely quiet it was in the infirmary. But as time went by, it slowly began to increase in volume. After about an hour, it was loud enough that everyone else could hear it too. After a couple more hours, its volume had increased so much that we could determine what the noise was. It was a song. This is the hash slinging slasher. It's the hash slinging slasher.
It
One
was
of the
a
staff
song.
members identified
Oh
it
my
as
god!
Living in the Sunlight by Tiny Tim.
Why? Apparently, his father.
When was this
father.
made? This was written in 2013. Was the Purge
wait.
out by then?
No idea.
Do you think of Insidious?
Yes.
Insidious was. Yes, it was. This is riding on the Insidious hype train. So, they're talking about the staff member's father. Okay.
Apparently, his father loved the song and listened to it frequently. The song seemed to be on a loop and kept repeating itself. Although we were able to identify the noise, we remained unable to identify its source. We knew that it wasn't coming from the speakers because we had turned them off. It seemed to be emitting from the walls themselves.
The walls themselves are playing "Living in the Sunlight" by Tiny Tim.
Green slime.
The one that's like, that's the one that's like, yeah, that's the one that's like, I'm so happy, go look at me, I'll go away.
So basically, he was just playing on the Krabby Pat, on the Krusty Krab Gary's mod map, because that's all it does.
Yeah. I'll keep going. More time ticked by as we all became increasingly agitated by the song. I spent most of my time in the infirmary attending to Frank or in the control room. Fear hung in the air, and the presence of unmistakable darkness and evil was no doubt its source. Subject 3 still had not moved. He had kept his unblinking gaze fixed on the camera the entire time. It always felt like he was staring directly at me, no matter where I was in the room. I think this effect was also felt by others due to the fact that they seemed to move around the room a lot for seemingly no reason. After a few hours, the song was so loud that people almost had to shout in order to communicate. We had been trying to find its source so that we could turn the song off, but it was to no avail. So the source was completely unidentifiable. This added a level of extreme irritation to our already very present fear. So these ancient otherworldly beings that you brought on here decided the best way to mess with you. The best way to mess with you is by playing Tiny Tim very loudly.
Fucking stupid.
That song gets annoying after a while. You'd be surprised.
That's true.
Is this what the music band was planning on killing Carlisle with?
Yeah, this is exactly what it's doing. It was around 8:30 that the ground itself began to shake once again, just as it had done the previous night. Panic began to spread among my fellow employees and me as the shaking grew in intensity. During this, I had the sudden instinctual feeling to look over at Subject 3's monitor. It was gone, almost as if on cue the power went out, and thankfully the song did as well. I'm just going to keep going until the next long paragraph. During this time, ever since the security came back, panic had been slowly building up among the staff, and Zimmerman was powerless to stop it. When those lights went out, the calm projections that everyone had been trying to maintain left us, and the fear in all our hearts took over. The emergency backup lights kicked on shortly after the power went out, which I gave a silent, thankful prayer for. The lights were dim, but they still allowed me to see a lot.
They're dim, I can't see that well, but I can still see a lot, you know. Not that well, but I can still see a lot.
Yeah.
Total panic because as many of my fellow staff members began screaming and rushing to the ladder in an attempt to escape. But the lights came back on. But too many were trying to use it at once, and no one was able to get very far in the ladder without someone else pulling them to the floor and taking their place. Zimmerman was shouting for everyone to calm down, but his dominating and intimidating personality had no effect here, and his demands fell upon deaf ears. It was total chaos. I don't think any of them were deaf. It wasn't long until people actually started hurting each other in their desperate attempts to get that ladder out of this place. I can only stand against the wall and wait for my opportunity to escape up the ladder. All the screams were soon silenced as the familiar hum of that unsettling song began to rise in volume again, only much quicker this time. And this time, it was clear that the noise was coming directly from the maze-like corridors. People stopped fighting and shouting as all our attention shifted to the door that led into the hallways. The song quickly got louder than it had ever been before, which forced many of us to cup our ears with our hands. I think that's a fancy way of saying to cover our ears in an attempt to silence the noise. Then suddenly the song just completely stopped. Silence. That was all that filled the room as we all stared at the thick metal door in anticipation for what was coming. It felt like ages had gone by. Ages and ages and ages. But in reality, it was probably only seconds before the silence was broken.
All right, stop.
Age.
Go, Steve.
The door suddenly violently burst open and the music started again, louder than it had ever been before. The suddenness and the volume of this caused many of us to recoil by falling to the ground and grabbing our ears in an attempt to block out the noise. I glanced up for just a second, and in the doorway stood a tall, smooth-skinned figure with long limbs and eyes so dark and malevolent that you could clearly see them in the dim lighting. After I got, who is the hash-slinging slasher?
Yeah, he's here.
Nosferatu.
No.
Nosferatu.
The hash-slinging slasher was subject 1. This is Nosferatu.
Yeah.
After I got my bearings,
All is smooth, so.
after I got my bearings, I looked upwards at the creature once again, just in time to see the thing pick up and rip Zimmerman in half in one fluid movement, dousing the room and everyone in it with his blood, intestines, and organs. I was no stranger to gore, but
Oh
the
my
sight
god.
was too much for me to
Why
bear.
is it so highly rated?
Because 14-year-olds read this and they
That's
go deep.
Yeah.
I hunched over immediately.
I relate. I hunch over
Vulnerable.
all the time. I relate to this.
I am also not scared by gore from all my years on 4chan.
Yeah.
God. Okay, let me read this next paragraph. I
I
got a
hunched
voice
over
for the guy.
immediately after seeing this and vomited all over the cold
Yeah,
cement
you know,
floor.
again, a human being mutilated to the point where they couldn't be, like, they couldn't be identified as a person anymore. That's fine, but, you know, seeing a man get ripped in half, that was too much.
He'll still
I want to
sleep
do this
sound.
next paragraph.
Alright,
I
dude,
got the
Harry.
perfect fucking voice for this guy. That ladder is my only hope of survival, I thought to myself as I forced myself in position. And as my eyes rose along with the rest of me, I could see the thing ripping and tearing through the people as they scattered in an attempt to escape it. It was distracted, and as awful as it sounds, this was my only chance to get up that ladder. You said a lot of other awful things, buddy. I
Yeah.
forced my legs to move toward the ladder, trying to block out the terrified screams of my fellow staff members and the unbearably loud music. I'm imagining him climbing up the ladder right now, his hands over his fucking ears, not even holding on to the fucking ladder.
With Tiny Tim. No, this guy. So like, this demonic creature is tearing through the entire staff and getting shot at and stuff. He's climbing up the ladder with Tiny Tim playing very loudly in the background.
Yeah.
That scene is not scary. That's funny.
Nope.
It's just him trying to escape a mosh.
God. I could hear gunshots coinciding with the screams and terrible sound of flesh being ripped apart in the mess and noise. I reached my hands outwards and felt the wave of release wash over me as my fingers came into contact with the hard metal rungs of the ladder. I gripped them and began to climb upwards as quickly as I could in my disoriented state, all the while praying that the monster would not see me and pull me off the ladder and back into the slaughter. It felt like any moment that I would feel one of its smooth hands wrap around my ankles and pull me to death. Tone, I'm gonna ignore that call. Okay. Where was I?
But I eventually.
I felt it but I eventually made it to the top. There was no question in my mind. I had to close the hatch and seal that thing down there, even if it meant certain death for my colleagues. I cannot allow that thing to escape. I gripped the thick metal lid and began to push with all my might in an attempt to seal the underground complex off. Despite how dense and sturdy it was, the lid was surprisingly easy to move and did not take very much effort to push into the hatch. But it's heavy and metal. It's supposed to be fucking... Even my weak instinct... Jesus Christ, I hate this story.
Yeah.
In seconds, the hatch was completely covered by the dense metal lid. I hate this story. I collapsed on my side and began to vomit some more as exhaustion overtook me. I hate this story. And as I lay there, I realized something. Aside from my labored breath, the only thing I could hear was the faint echo of that song from down below. I felt as though I would lose more of my sanity. So now he's going insane if I continue to lay there and listen to that song. So I once again forced myself to my feet and began to make my way to the wooden lodge I had stayed the previous night. It was where I had left my baggage and also where I had left the keys to my truck.
All right. I'm just gonna,
awful.
you know what? I'm just
Oh.
gonna read this all the way to the end. Here we go, because we're almost there.
Yeah.
Just one last section. Let's go. Of the 15 staff members that took part in the Forsaken experiment, I am the only one who survived. I have never returned to that awful place where all of this happened, and I don't intend to. The project was very secretive, and Zimmerman was the only one who knew all the details of it. No, he wasn't. You do. And as far as I know, no one is aware of my involvement aside from me. Well, why are you posting this? In fact, I am probably the only one who knows what the harbinger experiment truly was, let alone what had actually happened. By now, you are probably wondering why I've told you all about something none of you should be aware of. Maybe you're expecting me to give you a speech about not messing with things you don't understand or something along those lines. I hope not, for I have no speech to give or lesson to impart. I began hearing a noise earlier today. Almost immediately I recognized the noise as a very haunting and familiar song. I didn't even try to trace it to its source. I knew it would be pointless. And as the day progressed, the song had increased in volume. It's loud enough now that I can very clearly make out the lyrics. I am completely unable to escape Tiny Tim's voice.
Is that what it says?
Yes.
The monster fucking Tiny Tim.
It has followed me everywhere I've gone.
Tiny Tim, dude.
Subject 3 is coming for me, and I know my time left in this world is extremely limited now. I guess you could say that I just wanted to tell the tale of the harbinger experiment before it was lost forever. I hope that you will take some lesson from what I have recounted to you, but I think we both know you won't. Let's be honest, you don't even believe. Let's be honest, you don't believe a word of what I've just told you, and I don't blame you. I wouldn't believe me if I were you. To you, this is nothing more than something to get your cheap thrills from. You were probably mindlessly surfing the internet and you clicked the link and found yourself here, wherever here is.
What a fucking dick.
Wherever here may be,
Man, fuck. Now
reading this story. And to be honest, I don't care if you believe me or not. Even if you do, it probably won't stop you from trying to uncover. Wait, okay. So this guy's talking about how much we don't care, and then he's like, "This probably won't stop you from uncovering the truth of a darkness that few of us have ever seen. It certainly never stops Zimmerman."
I didn't care. I wouldn't.
And then he also said, "I don't have a speech talking about lessons or anything." And then he's like, "If you want a lesson, look at what happened to him when he went seeking the truth. I pray that none of you will ever discover this truth. I pray that none of you ever have to see the evil I have seen. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. I hope you all get to live in ignorance of what lies beyond the veil of what we can't understand." Well, no, we don't, because we read this story. It's here now. I can feel its black eyes burning into me as I could all those years ago. I am as much to blame as Zimmerman for the monstrosity that is now free to roam the world, even if I was not the one to create it. I'm sorry, please forgive me. The end. Holy shit. 9.5 out of 10. 9.5 out of freaking 10. This got 9 stars. 3,000 people read this story.
3. I just give it a 3.
Dude.
Top comment. I don't know why this is so highly rated. It's not bad, but it had weak plot development and lacked an interesting story.
So, the two most important things for a horror story it didn't have, but it's not that bad. The premise was alright, albeit a little silly. Good sci-fi material.
Here's somebody saying, "Hi, my name's Sam J. I don't want to dox you. I'm a filmmaker and would love to have the Harbinger experiment to be my first big project." Why would you want to make a movie based off of this shit?
You want to be able to put it on screen without spending a shit ton of money to get Tiny Tim. But
here's a comment. I love how real it seemed.
Yeah, these are the kind of people.
The story was just amazing. It gave me the chills that no story gives me today. Great job.
Fuck, dude. Okay, so this guy, the Harbinger experiment. So okay. this guy had already had a career right before the experiment happened. So let's be generous and say he's 30 years old. So the harbinger experiment started in 1971, but then 16 years later, so he's 30 in 1971, 16 years later he's 46, and then this story was posted in 2013. So this guy is freaking, how old would that make him? 1987.
Someone I don't
1987. So 46 plus 13.
I am complete fucking LSD.
Hold on, wait.
Look in general.
Look in general. I'm completely unable to escape Titan.
I'm completely
Follows me
unable.
everywhere I've gone.
Hold on, my Discord's being stupid. I'm completely gonna escape tiny places, team. No, but I'm trying to decipher. This guy would be like probably almost 70 years old at the time of writing this.
Yeah.
So he's gonna die anyways.
Yeah, it's like,
God.
dude,
So the monster is literally just
someone
a reaper.
who is 70 years old was able to find the creepypasta wiki and Wattpad and post this story there. Someone
so
who,
what does the monster do after he kills him? Just like go to McDonald's or something?
yeah, like what the
Probably.
fuck? This is
Well, I gotta live here now.
this is
Oh,
like
or
a
the Big
fucking
Mac bacon.
this is a fucking like interdimensional space demon that came from the that pierced the veil of reality to come here, and he's hunting dudes that just like kind of fucked with him a little bit, and that was it. You know?
Yeah. That's not the best story I've ever read, but
I wanna hear this. I wanna hear this story from the perspective of the monster.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, "Fuck, man, I'm sleeping."
yeah, don't
Dude,
fucking
that's-
wake me up.
yeah.
I'm gonna annoy you guys with Tiny Tim at a
Fuck.
loud volume.
All right.
What if he was trying to be their friend? He's like, "Hey, look, guys, I really like Tiny Tim. He's my favorite artist from this dimension."
So what if he like gets summoned? He's like, hey guys, I want to show you guys Tiny Tim. I'm gonna play it at a fair volume.
So
Oh, you guys don't hear it? I'll turn it up.
Let me turn
You
it
guys
up,
still don't hear it? I'll turn it up.
all right.
And then people get mad at him for doing it. He's like, I was trying to show you guys at a fair volume, but you wouldn't listen. You know?
All right, so rating system will be milk percentages, the best being whole milk, the worst being skim. What would you rate this story from skim milk to whole
Soy
milk?
milk.
2%.
2%?
Soy milk. It goes beyond the scale.
You rate
Wait,
it 2%?
2% better than 1?
Yes.
Where's chocolate milk on the scale?
Chocolate milk
Just
would be really good,
under
right?
it's just under whole.
What about soy milk? Does soy milk go like
Soy
beyond the
milk
worst rating?
soy milk is lower than skim, yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
soy
What
milk.
about strawberry milk?
Actually, you know what? No.
Strawberry milk is in
Um,
between 1% and 2%.
Okay,
Alright.
I'm gonna have to say skim and a half.
Skim and a half.
Skim and a half.
I rate this story skim.
Right in between skim and soy.
I rate this.
I
I
rate-
rate this
I
story
rate-
skim.
I
Definitely
rate
a
this-
light skin and a half. Light leaning to heavy skin and a half. So
I rate this story your friend opening up his chocolate milk and you putting a packet of ketchup in it.
all right.
Me.
All right. Well, if you're watching this video, this series will continue, and next time we'll
Will.
probably read a better story and actually
Let me
enjoy
choose it
ourselves.
next time
Hopefully.
because I have good taste.
Okay, fine. If you watch this long, thank you. Drop a like, subscribe, all that bullshit, and say goodbye, everybody.
I love
Can
you
we read
all.
one about women?
Oh.
Goodbye, I love you all.
And see you
don't release
later.
the Kraken.
Have a blessed night or evening or morning or day or afternoon.
Yeah,
I
whenever you're
look at
watching
this on
this.
Twitter.
All right, goodbye.